You've been wronged. You know it, they know it, everyone in the room knows it, and yet, nothing. No apology, no acknowledgement, not even a flicker of discomfort on their face. Instead, somehow, the conversation turns. Suddenly, you're explaining yourself, defending your reaction, wondering if maybe, just maybe, you overreacted. You didn't. What you just experienced wasn't a communication failure, it wasn't stubbornness, it wasn't pride. It was a psychological defense system so deeply embedded that the person across from you may not even be fully aware it's running. Today, we're going inside the mind of people who never apologize. What's actually happening in there? Why they can't, or won't, ever say those two words. And what it means for anyone who has to deal with them. Stay with this, because by the end, you'll see exactly what you're dealing with, and you'll never waste another moment waiting for an apology that will never come. Number 1. The apology feels like death. For most people, apologizing is uncomfortable but survivable. For this type, it feels existential. Psychologists call it ego fragility. The self-image is so tightly constructed, so brittle, that admitting fault doesn't just mean, I made a mistake. It means, I am defective, I am weak, I am less than. Their internal architecture cannot separate the action from the identity. They didn't do something wrong. They would be something wrong. Think about what that means for a moment. Every human being makes mistakes. Every single one. The ability to acknowledge that, repair it, and move forward is one of the most basic functions of healthy relationships. But for this person, that function is blocked at the source. Not because they don't care about the relationship, sometimes they care deeply, but because the cost of admission in their internal economy is simply too high to pay. This is why the refusal feels so irrational from the outside. You're not asking them to confess to a crime. You're asking them to say 2 words. But in their internal reality, those 2 words would crack the foundation of who they believe themselves to be. So the system shuts it down. Every time, and the more you push, the harder the system pushes back, because now the threat feels even greater. Number 2. They rewrite the event in real time. Here's what makes this particularly disorienting. They're not always lying to you. They're lying to themselves first. The brain has a mechanism called memory reconsolidation. Every time we recall a memory, we slightly rewrite it. For most people, this is subtle. For someone who cannot tolerate fault, this mechanism goes into overdrive. By the time they're talking to you about what happened, they've already edited the event. The version they're presenting isn't a fabrication calculated to deceive you. It's the version they've already started to believe. Your version and their version aren't just different interpretations, they're different movies. And in their movie, they were reasonable, measured, even the victim. This is why arguing the facts with them is almost always useless. You're not disagreeing about what happened. You're disagreeing about what reality is. Number 3. Blame is a defense mechanism, not a choice. When someone can't apologize, the blame has to go somewhere, and it almost always goes to you. This isn't random. It's structurally necessary. If the fault can be relocated to your sensitivity, your timing, your tone, your history, then the threat is neutralized. The self-image remains intact. Watch the pattern. The moment you raise what they did, the conversation pivots to what you did. Your reaction becomes the crime. Your hurt becomes the problem that needs solving. Psychologists call this projection, but lived experience has a simpler name for it: exhausting. Because now you're no longer dealing with the original issue. You're defending your right to have been affected by it. You're managing their discomfort at the cost of your own. And the original wound stays open, unaddressed, quietly festering. What makes this particularly insidious is the speed at which it happens. You come into the conversation with a legitimate grievance. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, you find yourself on the defensive, explaining yourself, justifying your feelings. The subject has been changed, and you didn't even notice it happening. That's not an accident. That's a system working exactly as designed. Number 4. There are 2 types, and one is far more dangerous. Not all non-apologizers are the same. Understanding the distinction matters. The first type is the shame avoidant. Deep down, they feel shame acutely, maybe more than most people. But because they cannot tolerate it, they've built walls against it. Their refusal to apologize is a defense against a feeling that would be genuinely overwhelming for them. They're not cold, they're terrified. The second type is different. These are individuals with limited or absent empathy, often seen in narcissistic and dark triad personalities. They don't apologize because the impact on you is simply not real to them in the way it is to others. Your pain doesn't register as something requiring repair because your inner experience doesn't fully exist in their world. The distinction is important because the path forward is completely different. The shame-avoidant person can sometimes shift, with the right conditions, over time. The low empathy type will not change. Understanding which one you're dealing with may be the most important information you can have. Number 5. The false apology, recognizing it immediately. Sometimes they do apologize, and somehow it makes everything worse. The false apology is a masterclass in saying the words without meaning them. You'll recognize it by what it contains. I'm sorry you feel that way. This apologizes for your emotions, not their behavior. I'm sorry, but... Everything after the but is the real message. The apology is the setup. I already said sorry. What more do you want? The apology as transaction. One payment, account closed, move on. These aren't apologies. They're apology-shaped objects designed to end the discomfort of the conversation without any genuine accountability. The goal isn't repair. The goal is resolution for them. When you receive one of these, you'll often feel worse than if they'd said nothing, because you got the form without the substance. The wound stays open, but you're now supposed to act like it doesn't. Number 6. What years without apology does to you. This isn't just about individual incidents. It's about what happens to a person over time inside a relationship where accountability is permanently off the table. First comes self-doubt. You start second-guessing your own perceptions. If they never acknowledge wrongdoing, your experiences must be misread, exaggerated, or manufactured. Slowly, your internal compass starts to lose calibration. Then comes the accommodation. You start managing yourself instead of addressing the dynamic. You learn what to say and what not to say, what to bring up and what to bury. You begin shrinking to fit the space their refusal to grow has created. There's also something that happens to your anger. At first, it's clean, a direct response to a specific wrong. But when that wrong is never acknowledged, the anger has nowhere to go. It doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It becomes resentment. And resentment is anger without an exit. It poisons slowly from the inside. And finally, for many people, comes the breaking point. The moment they realize they've been doing all the emotional labor in the relationship for years, carrying wounds that were never acknowledged, adjusting to a person who never adjusted to them. That's not a relationship. That's a long-form extraction. Number 7. What you can and cannot do. Here is the hard truth. You cannot make someone apologize. You cannot argue them into it, shame them into it, or wait long enough for it to happen. If the architecture isn't there, the behavior won't come. What you can control is your response. Stop waiting for the apology as a condition for your own healing. The acknowledgement you need doesn't have to come from them. You can validate your own experience. You can recognize what happened clearly and accurately, regardless of whether they ever do. You can also choose what to do with the relationship. Staying is a choice. Leaving is a choice. Setting limits on what you're willing to accept is a choice. But staying and continuing to expect a different response is not a choice. It's a trap. The most important shift you can make is this. Stop measuring their character by their apologies. Start measuring it by the pattern. What do they consistently do when they cause harm? That pattern is their character, and it tells you everything you need to know about who you're dealing with. People who never apologize are not mysterious. They're predictable. Their behavior follows a logic, and once you understand that logic, it loses most of its power over you. The apology you deserved may never come, but your clarity about what happened, who they are, and what you're willing to accept going forward, that belongs entirely to you. And that is worth far more than any apology they could give.